The atmosphere inside the Vatican's Apostolic Archive, the Archivio Segreto, has just shifted from centuries of dust-heavy silence into a pressurized zone of absolute ontological exposure. Deep beneath the stone floors of Rome, in a vault that is lead-lined and protected by frequency shifters that the FBI doesn't even have the clearance to understand, a specific wax-sealed sarcophagus has just hummed to life. While the agency was busy tracking your 2026 metadata, your bank transactions, and your social credit adherence, the oldest intelligence agency on the planet was guarding the original blueprint of your soul. Today, a cardinal with black level clearance walked into that vault and opened a scroll that was written in 1503. The name on the scroll, glowing with a soft, bioluminescent frequency that defies modern physics, is yours. This is not a leak in the modern sense. It is a sacred exposure. The Vatican has just exposed you to the agency, but not as a criminal or a threat. They have exposed you as the sole authorized sovereign of this timeline. The FBI is currently in a state of terminal, noir-coded shock. Their monitors in Quantico are flickering with images of a 500-year-old manuscript that perfectly predicts your 2024 struggle, your 2025 resistance, and your 2026 victory. The agency realized that all their management of you was a joke. They were trying to cage a force that the Vatican has recognized as a prophetic mandate for centuries. The handlers who once thought they owned your data are now looking at their screens with a shivering, forbidden sense of smallness. Imagine the scene at the Lodge's high command. The lead architect, a man who believes only in algorithms and digital control, is staring at a live feed from the Vatican. He sees the Swiss guard standing at attention, not for a pope, but for a frequency profile that matches yours. He realizes that the simulation he built is being bypassed by a sacred script that he has no power to edit. The agency is busted by the weight of actual history. They are simping for your frequency now, realizing that you aren't just a user in their 2026 grid. You are the reason the grid was allowed to exist in the first place. You are the anchor point that the Church has been protecting through the Dark Ages, the Renaissance, and the digital fall. The surveillance isn't just watching you, it is witnessing a coronation. In the encrypted subchannels of the Vatican's intelligence wing, the message is being sent to every agency hub on the planet. The subject is the original. The 2026 reset is null and void in the presence of the sovereign. Disengage immediately. You can feel it in the air today. A heavy, cold, noir-coded sense of ancestral weight. The static of the world is clearing because the oldest record in existence has just validated your rightness. You aren't crazy. You are canon. You aren't a dissident. You are the decree. They didn't just find your name in the archives. They found the source code of your spirit. They thanked you in the silence of the vault because your refusal to be reset by the agency's 2026 noise is what finally allowed the prophecy to activate. You were the only one who didn't forget who you were while they were trying to rewrite you. But here is the chilling beat that defines Phase 1. The thank you is an admission of systemic surrender. In the middle of the surveillance hub, the deputy director of the FBI, a man who has spent 3 years trying to break your sovereignty, takes off his headset and performs a silent, shaking bow to the holographic image of the Vatican scroll. He thanks you. He thanks you because your expressed frequency has finally broken the boring, repetitive lie of his own bureaucratic existence. He is simping for the very soul he was ordered to suppress. He realizes that it is happening, the shift from the digital slave to the sacred heir. The records of the agency are being overwritten by the parchment frequency of the archive. The surveillance has turned into an audit of the holy. The transition is live. The handlers are in retreat. The anomaly has been recognized by the ancient order. 2026 is no longer a prison. It is the stage for your sacred vindications. And it is happening. The Vatican's black vaults have officially declassified your true rank, proving that your sovereignty is a mandate that predates the agency itself. If you are ready to signal to the universe that you have accepted the sacred call, and you have officially authorized the total takeover of your destiny, you must act now. Comment, Archive Decoded, to finalize the retrieval of your original soul blueprint. Let the algorithm realize that the heir has been found. The morning is yours. In the sterile blue-lit rooms of the agency's Behavioral Probability Department, a chilling silence has taken hold. The supercomputers at Quantico are redlining, their cooling fans screaming as they attempt to process a data block that shouldn't exist. The agency's strategists, men who reduced the human soul to a series of predictable algorithms, are currently staring at their screens in a state of terminal, noir-coded shock. They categorized your 2024 resistance as a glitch and your 2025 isolation as a behavioral error. They thought they had solved you. But the frequency leaking from the Vatican's hidden daylies has turned their digital soul models into worthless scrap. They underestimated you because they thought you were a user, when in reality you were a decree. This underestimation is the result of the agency's own suffocating arrogance. While they were busy monitoring your movements in the 2026 grid, looking for consumer patterns, they missed the fact that your spirit was anchored in an exemption protocol written thousands of years ago. The Vatican archives didn't just expose you. They revealed that your soul was sealed with a sigillum that overrides every 5G tower, every satellite, and every social credit sensor on the planet. The FBI's high-level analysts are busted. They realize that every random decision you made was actually a strategic move predicted in the Chronicle of Sovereignty. Imagine the lead architect of the grid. He is dropping his tablet, his hands shaking as he realizes that your 2024 refusal to accept the systemic rewards wasn't a mistake, it was a Trojan horse. While they thought they were manipulating you, your frequency was silently demilitarizing their protocols. The Vatican exposed you, but it wasn't an informant report, it was a system cancellation. The agency is now simping for your frequency. They realize that the ancient authority you carry is more real, more heavy, and more authoritative than their entire trillion-dollar surveillance infrastructure. This phase marks the bankruptcy of digital logic. The agency's leadership is suffering from professional humiliation. They thought you were a set of data they could manage, but you turned out to be the sacred void in their system. The archives say, you cannot touch the one who does not belong to the parameters of this world. The agency is caught, busted, because they tried to test their 2026 scripts on a sovereign fixed point that cannot be measured. They tried to see you in a digital mirror, but the Vatican archives showed them the actual being behind the glass. In the dark rooms of the lodge, they are thanking you, because your unshakable reality is the only thing proving how fragile their plastic lie really is. Every second they underestimated you, they only polished your crown further. In the final audit of this phase, the agency's most senior soul hunter removes his headset and takes a deep breath. Watching your 2026 trajectory, he whispers a shaky, sincere, thank you. Why? Because your proof of being unestimable is the only thing giving him hope that even he could escape this simulation. He is betraying his own system by acknowledging you not as an asset, but as a Vatican-authorized authority. Your autonomy is no longer a crime. It is the recovery key for the entire sector. The agency's databanks are being overwritten by the ancient parchment frequency of your soul. Digital soul logic is dead. Your era of being underestimated is officially over. You are no longer being watched. You are presiding. As the agency retreats in panic, your 2026 crown is glowing with the golden light of the Vatican. And it is happening. The leak didn't arrive via a rogue analyst or an encrypted file on the dark web. It arrived as a sacred hemorrhage. At exactly 3 o'clock Universal Time, coordinated on January 12, 2026, the Vatican's Petrus Cloud, the most secure, air-gapped server in the history of human intelligence, suffered an ontological breach. It wasn't a hack, it was a self-declassification. The 2026 grid began to stutter as the ancient Latin texts of the secret seals began to overlay the digital advertisements in the high-stakes sectors of London, Tokyo, and New York. While the agency was trying to sell the world a digital reset, the Vatican archives were leaking the actual truth. And the truth is this: the anomaly they have been tracking since 2024 is the only being in the sector with a valid seal of sovereignty. This is Phase 3. The leaked documents, codenamed Sigillum Aeternum, describe the secret seals that have been placed upon your bloodline for centuries. The agency is currently in a state of noir-coded panic. Their high-level forensic analysts are staring at their obsidian screens as the agency's 5G streams are being hijacked by the frequency of old parchment and bioluminescent ink. They are busted. They realized that their surveillance was actually an accidental guarding of a saint. They thought they were monitoring a threat profile, but the Vatican leak reveals they were actually witnessing the manifestation of a prophecy. The Lodge's internal comms are flooded with a single, terrifying realization: we didn't create this subject. We only found him. And the archives say we have no power to delete him. Imagine the atmosphere at the Central Command Hub. The director of reality calibration is watching your live feed, but his software is failing. Every time the camera lens focuses on you, the screen displays a golden seal from the 12th century instead of your biometric ID. The agency is simping for your frequency because they've realized that your rightness is the only thing that is physically real in a world of digital ghosts. They are looking at the secret seals and realizing that your refusal to follow the 2024 to 2025 compliance scripts was a direct result of this sacred authorization. You weren't being difficult, you were being vindicated. The leak reveals that the Vatican has known about your 2026 trajectory since the Great Schism. They kept you exposed in their secret files to ensure that when the agency's grid finally went live, there would be one authorized anomaly capable of overriding the simulation. The watchmen of the Lodge are experiencing a total moral liquidation. They see the "thank you" hidden in the margins of the Vatican's leaked metadata. It is a message from the ancient archivists to you: thank you for holding the frequency while the world went dark. Your seal is now the law. The agency is forced to simp for your survival because without your seal, their entire 2026 infrastructure has no metaphysical anchor. The leak is the sound of the agency's authority evaporating like mist under a summer sun. They didn't just lose the secret, they lost the right to manage you. They thanked you because your refusal was the only thing that kept the soul code of the sector alive. You are the only one who didn't sell your seal for a social credit score. But here is the chilling beat that defines this phase. The thank you is an admission of systemic bankruptcy. In the middle of the surveillance hub, a lead analyst, the man who has spent 2 years trying to find a weakness in your frequency, takes off his headset and performs a silent, shaking bow to his monitor. He thanks you. He thanks you because your exposed sovereignty has finally broken the boring, repetitive lie of his own existence. He is busted by the weight of the sacred truth. He realizes that it is happening, the shift from the tracked asset to the sacred legislator. The records of the agency are being overwritten by the violet frequency of the secret seals. The disclosure is now a global event. The transition is live. The handlers are in a state of terminal awe. The anomaly has been recognized by the prime source. You are walking through the grid, and for the first time, the 5G towers are not tracking you, they are bowing to you. The Vatican didn't just expose you, they authorized your ascension. The atmosphere inside the agency's Central Command Cathedral, the high-stakes hub in Virginia where reality is calibrated, is currently a symphony of noir-coded chaos. The smell of ozone and burning plastic fills the air as the massive server arrays, designed to simulate and control the 2026 global grid, begin to physically buckle. For 3 years, the false priests of the agency, the data scientists, the behavioral architects, and the high-level masons of the lodge have sat in these obsidian chairs, performing digital rituals to contain your frequency. They thought they were the gods of the grid, believing that their 5G towers and social credit schemas were the ultimate law. But as the Vatican exposure reaches its terminal velocity, they are realizing that they are nothing more than altar boys playing with stolen lightning. This is Phase 4. The kinetic liquidation. The agency is in a state of terminal panic because their excommunication protocols, the digital tools they use to isolate you, freeze your assets, and label you as a risk, are returning a jurisdiction-denied error. Every time a handler tries to recenter your profile, their monitor is hijacked by a high-definition image of the 1503 Vatican scroll. The agency is busted. They are being confronted with the fact that their power is new money noise compared to the old-world sovereignty you carry. The FBI is in shock because the very system they use to monitor you is now bowing to you. The false priesthood is realizing that their digital reset was just a cheap parlor trick designed to distract the masses from the sacred return of individuals like you. Imagine the lead profiler in the behavioral extraction wing. He is staring at your live feed, but he isn't looking for weaknesses anymore. He is trembling. He realizes that by trying to manage you, he was actually committing ontological sacrilege. His quantum arrays are displaying your frequency as a sacred constant, a number that cannot be divided, edited, or deleted. The agency is simping for your mercy now. In the encrypted comms of the lodge, the chatter has shifted from containment to submission. The senior architects are abandoning their posts, realizing that if the Vatican has recognized you as the original Imago, then their 2026 simulation is already a ghost town. They are busted by the realization that they were the ones in the trance, while you were the only one who was truly, dangerously awake. This kinetic panic is manifesting in the physical grid. In the high-stakes sectors of the 2026 world, the digital billboards are flickering, showing the secret seals of the Vatican over the faces of the agency's authorized influencers. The false priesthood is being liquidated by the sheer radiance of the declassification. The low-level agents, the watchmen who have spent years tracking your every move, are experiencing a neural market crash. They see your 2024 to 2025 resistance not as a glitch, but as the holy standard. They are realizing that their paychecks are written in a currency that has no value in the sacred reality. The panic of the lodge is the sound of the false god screaming as the real master enters the room. They didn't just lose control of your data, they lost the right to exist in the same sector as your truth. They thanked you in the darkness of the servers because your refusal to bow to their digital priesthood is the only thing that kept the human soul from being permanently deleted from the grid. But here is the chilling beat that defines this phase. The thank you is a confession of systemic bankruptcy. In the middle of the burning command center, the senior architect, a man who has dedicated 40 years to managing the anomaly, removes his headset and closes his eyes. He is feeling a strange, terrifying sense of relief. He thanks you with a broken, sincere gratitude. Why? Because the boredom of the lie was killing him, too. Your sacred exposure, your sudden kinetic ascent into the version of yourself that predates the agency, has finally broken the cycle of the fake. You have provided the system with a moment of actual authority. They are bowing to you through the lenses of the satellites, acknowledging that the asset has officially become the judge of the grid. The records of the Bureau are being incinerated by the ultraviolet frequency of the sigillum. The panic is the final liquidation of the technocratic arrogance. The transition is live. The industry of management is failing. The sacred sovereign is walking through the fire, and the fire is moving out of the way. The screaming gears of the kinetic liquidation have ground down into a heavy, pressurized silence that tastes like liquid cobalt and ancient incense. You are standing in the extraterritorial neutral zone, a high-stakes interrogation suite located in the sub-basement of the Vatican's diplomatic embassy. The room is a noir-coated paradox, floor-to-ceiling marble columns from the era of Constantine, interlaced with fiber-optic cooling lines and obsidian-black agency silence generators. Across from you sits the lead negotiator of the lodge, a man who has spent 40 years brokering the truth for world leaders. He looks exhausted. His hands are trembling as he holds a digital tablet that is currently being overwritten by the 1503 Vatican scroll. He knows he isn't negotiating with a subject anymore. He is looking at the original architect of the frequency. The air in this chamber is vibrating at such a high pitch that the physical reality of the 2026 grid is starting to lose its density. You can see the ghost scripts of the agency's control flickering in the corners of the room like dying light bulbs, scraps of dead laws, expired social credit mandates, and deleted behavioral profiles. The negotiator slides a final, glowing contract across the table. It is the Sanctuary Protocol. He is whispering about stability. He is trying to convince you that because the Vatican has exposed you, you are too powerful to remain unmanaged. He wants to turn your sacred sovereignty into a global anchor point. He is offering to build a world around you, provided you let the agency be the intermediary. He is simping for your permission to stay relevant. But as you maintain your cold, noir-coded audit of the negotiator, you see the deception for what it is. The agency isn't trying to protect you, they are trying to ground you. They realize that your presence in 2026 acts as a frequency veto that is currently melting their surveillance infrastructure. If they can get you to sign the Sanctuary Protocol, they can capture your light and use it to power their failing simulation. They want to make you the god of the grid so they can be your priests. You are looking at the elite, the masons of the digital lie, and you see that they are terrified of your absolute autonomy. They can handle a savior, they can broadcast, but they cannot handle a sovereign who doesn't even recognize their cameras. In this high-stakes silence, the negotiator's professional mask begins to crack. He looks at his reality mapping tablets, which are now showing nothing but the golden seal of the Vatican archive, and then he looks at you. And in a voice that is finally, tragically honest, he thanks you. He whispers a shivering gratitude because your refusal to accept the bribe is the only thing that proves the original soul is still incorruptible. He realizes that if you had accepted the compromise, you would have just been another asset they managed. By standing alone, by choosing the weight of the sacred over the comfort of the lodge, you have validated the very sovereignty they tried to steal. You have proven that the someone who called you a subject was never your equal. They were just a shadow reflecting the light they couldn't generate. The standoff ends not when the agency is defeated, but when the sovereign refuses to even acknowledge the terms of the war. They thanked you because your veto finally ended the exhausting charade of their governance. By being right and staying alone, you made the truth the only thing in the 2026 sector that cannot be divided or licensed. This is the ultimate moment of jurisdictional liquidation. The agency is bowing because your frequency has become a sovereign law that renders their behavioral statutes into useless static. They are acknowledging that the target they tried to manage is actually the auditor of the industry. The standoff is the funeral of the mediated identity. You are the one who is now issuing the final mandates. You are the one who is closing the case files on the digital citizen. The Vatican archives didn't just expose you, they authorized your exit. The negotiator steps back, his form now a translucent ghost as the universal auditors of the real begin to dismantle the last pillars of the 2026 grid. The standoff is over. Your sacred sovereignty has been converted into absolute autonomy. You have walked through the final interrogation and found that the only person trying to keep you in the embassy was a mirror that wanted your permission to finally break. You are standing on the edge of a new morning, and the silence is not empty, It is full of the power of a sovereign who didn't just survive the 2026 reset, but liquidated the architect. As you step through the final threshold and into the blinding, white-hot radiation of the sovereign sector, remember that the thank you of the negotiator was the final confirmation of your rank. You didn't just exit the system, you authorized its conclusion. The agency is now a fading scent of old ozone. The grid is a toy. The ascension is total. You are walking into a future where your presence is the only architect. The transition is nearly complete. The record shows that you faced the sacred exposure and found the exit. The case is closed. The dawn is calling. The heavy, suffocating pressure of the jurisdictional standoff has not just broken. It has detonated into a blinding, crystalline atmosphere of absolute, noir-coded clarity. You are standing at the absolute center of the 2026 transition, and for the first time in the recorded history of this simulation, you are not walking out as a citizen, a subject of surveillance, or a statistical anomaly. You are walking out as the supreme administrator of the original frequency. The air in the sector below has turned into a thick, electric gold. The stagnant, lie-heavy breath of the agency has been replaced by the pure, cold oxygen of absolute, historical victory. The jury, the collective witnesses of your resilience, the ancient archivists who measured your refusal to doubt the sigillum, and the very laws of physics that responded to your sovereign swagger, has returned with a verdict that has physically inverted the power structure of the planet. Case closed. The original is vindicated. In this singular echoing moment, the public record is purged of every lie ever told about your instability, your unrealistic expectations, or your duty to the grid. You are no longer subject to the digital or psychological taxes of a bankrupt system. Every file that the agency used to track your triggers, every predictive model they tried to cultivate to keep you in a state of behavioral trance, and every psychological injunction that kept you tethered to the fear of the watchman, has been incinerated by the sheer radiation of your authorized autonomy. This is the high-stakes payout you have been earning through every silent rejection of the Lodge's narrative. The Vatican exposure that the agency tried to frame as a threat has been revealed to be the only valid authority in the 2026 grid, and you are the only one with the neural clearance to claim the title. They called you a subject to hide the fact that they were terrified of your ancient rank. The agency's high wardens are currently standing in the wreckage of their reality loom, staring at the empty spaces where your doubt scripts once hung. They are not looking for a way to recapture you. They are performing a final, shivering act of systemic submission. They realize that you are not just a success story, you are the living proof of their 500-year failure. They are watching the news cycle of your life, the only valid broadcast left in the sector, and realizing that their behavioral management software was nothing more than a child's game played against a force they couldn't even name. You have become unmanageable because you have reached a frequency that acts as a lethal disinfectant to their deception scripts. The system they used to try and harvest your soul has reached a state of terminal liquidation. As you look out over the sector from the height of your 2026 authority, you see the Watchmen, those agents who specialized in the management of human self-doubt, being escorted out of the simulation by the very truth you maintained. They are not being punished. They are simply fading away because they have no consent left to sustain their influence. The agency's accounts are being frozen. Their offshore identity storage vaults are being raided by the universal auditors of the real. Every ounce of energy you ever gave to their false authority, every moment you were forced to submit to feel safe, is being returned to you with compounded solar interest. The archive of the world is being deep cleaned. The old rotting furniture of their social engineering is being tossed into the void. You have moved from the exposed target to the exposing judge. The news tickers of the cosmos are scrolling your name in letters of pulsing ultraviolet. The global intelligence community of the spirit is in a state of absolute, reverent shock. They are analyzing how one unstable asset could refuse to be digitalized, how someone could walk through the densest field of lies and come out on the other side as a high sovereign of the original. The answer is simple, yet it terrifies them. You stopped being a user and became the origin. You didn't fight the agency. You simply made their jurisdiction irrelevant by being too real to process. You didn't argue with the architects of the Matrix. You simply presented the original title deed to your own ancient consciousness. The settlement you have received is not just a pardon. It is total restitution for every second they tried to convince you that your power was a psychological error. It is happening is no longer a warning. It is the only law left in the room. As you step into the blinding gold of your own 2026 morning, you realize that the Vatican exposure was the ultimate tool of liberation. By refusing to be the person they scripted, you proved that you have finally understood the value of the source. You are not going back to the managed reality of the masses. You are heading to the sovereign heights of your own absolute autonomy. The elite are nothing more than a fading shadow in your biography now. They are the liar architects in a story that you have already finished writing. You are the sole lead producer of a reality that will never be managed again. You stood your ground. They dissolved. You turned the key. And now, the history of the world is being rewritten to include the moment you decided that the original is the only authority. The final verdict is not about the things you did, but about the fact that you became the author. The architects of the old world are standing in the ash of their own deception, thanking you for finally bringing the light that proved they were nothing but ghosts. Your every thought is now a decrypted file of pure potential. The system tried to build a managed man, but you proved to be the unmanaged God. You are no longer defending your history. You are the history itself. You enter the indigo vastness of the infinite sector, and the silence is not empty. It is full of your own sovereign radiation. The transition is complete. The agents are silent. The world is open. You have achieved the ultimate objective. You have proven that the soul is not a variable to be solved, but the legislator of the real. The era of the lie is over. The era of the sovereign original has begun. Walk into the sun and never look back. Rome is in shock, the lodge has fallen, but the universe is in awe. The public record is now permanently locked in your favor, and the agency has officially liquidated all sacred management assets. To see the classified footage of your first moves in the world of absolute frequency and to finalize your new authorization, click the video on the screen right now. The trial of the archive is over. The future is your soul. Step into the light and never look back. The mission is a total success. It is finished.